James Hipkin, thank you so much for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
You say that now. I always say that to everybody. So back up a little bit. Not everybody's going to know who you are, even though you've been doing what you've been doing for a while. And we talked before the show. I'm in Central Valley, California. Used to be in the Bay Area. And now you're up in Northern California. It's funny how many people tell us that we should leave California, but I like the weather better. If I leave California, I have to deal with a lot of things like humidity and bugs and other stuff that we don't have to deal with. I can still go on my back porch and not have to have it screened in. So I'm good with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people there's a reason the real estate's expensive here.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. They want certain people to be here and other people not to be. Yeah. So back up. So you've been in business for a while. I mean, this business here, but then prior to that, so let's go just a quick background. How did you get into business?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I graduated from college with a music degree. And, I know this will come as a shock to you, but corporate America is not knocking your door down when you have a music degree. And so I spent the first 6 years out of college working in the rock and roll industry. Touring with recording artists and stage managing and road managing and all that kind of backroom stuff. And then at the ripe old age of 30, I decided I didn't want to keep on doing this. And I just got myself a job as a junior account executive at the Toronto office of a New York ad agency called Ted Bates. And that started my career into marketing and advertising. And it's been fascinating. It's taken me to 4 different countries on 3 different continents. I've worked with big brands, multi 8-figure budgets. It's been quite a journey, and all kinds of positive things that I've learned over the time, and people I've gotten to know, and friends that I've made, and it's been a very positive experience for me.
Now, where did you go to college?
Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Okay, so I thought I heard Canada there, and it wasn't a sound. I just the way you I think you said Toronto. So then you worked in Toronto, and then how did you get to the States?
Well, that was the 4 different countries on 3 different continents. I initially got transferred to South America to work with Pillsbury. Pillsbury was launching Green Giant canned vegetables in Latin America, and then my newlywed wife told me that if we wanted to have a family, it couldn't be done by fax. So I got transferred to Europe, and I was based in Madrid, Spain, and working with Rover Cars in continental Europe. And that was fascinating. And then we got transferred from Europe to the head office of the agency I was working for in Chicago. And then I was 10 years in Chicago, working with that in that agency environment, and then got recruited to be president of an agency in San Francisco. And that's what brought me to California.
Wow. 10 years in Chicago. That's some cold winters.
Well, when you're from Canada, it's all relative, right? So,
right. All right. So back up a second. When you were in Latin America and your wife said you can't do it by fax, where was she at?
She was there with me. She was in Caracas, Venezuela. That's where we were based. And at that point, Procter & Gamble's headquarters were in Caracas, and Colgate's headquarters were in Caracas, and Pillsbury's headquarters were in Caracas. There was a lot of, major international companies were based there. They're not there anymore, unfortunately, but different era. And so that's where I was. And then I was traveling all across the region, right? South America's a really big place. And so it gave me an opportunity to travel to all the major countries in Latin America numerous times. And that was fascinating. We have some very, very good memories of that time.
Did you speak the language before you went down there?
Not before I went. No, it was an adventure.
The only way to really learn is to be in the country for a while. That's truly the best way to learn.
Yep. Yeah. And I never ever became an expert at it, but I had functional Spanish by the end of 3 years in Venezuela and traveling the region, and then 4 years in Madrid, Spain. the combination of those two things, I could function pretty easily and pretty comfortably. And then I got to Chicago and had to learn a whole new language.
And what years was that? Was it 90s?
Early 2000s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, that kind of range.
Yeah. Because everybody was all over. So when did they leave? Everybody leave Caracas?
I don't
I
don't know.
It's because I mean that would be the best place to go to, work for a big corporation. So
yeah, in that era, yes, it was fascinating, but I could see my clients building across the valley, but in order to make the phone call, I'd had to call the international system because the local phone system was so bad.
No, but what I'm getting at is there's kids these days getting out of college aren't going to have the same experience you had or we had. It's just not the same. The things that were back then, you just can't reproduce again these days, and it's not the same. And that's all I was trying to get at, because it's totally different world. Even that we're so connected now. I mean, you don't have to be in the same place. You could be across the world. It's nicer to be able to see people, but I mean, you could do your podcast, you're on a podcast in Nevada City. It's all right. You said, right. Nevada City.
Yeah. Nevada City.
And I'm in Minnesota, but I've done it to where people are in, Australia and other places at the same time. We're just so connected now because of how things have happened that they'll never experience those type of things.
Right. It's different eras, different times. I mean, I started, the internet didn't exist. Personal computers didn't exist. We were making presentations to clients from acetates using overhead projectors. It was, I've been through a lot over the course of my career.
See, I was in the Navy in the 80s. We had floppy disks, 5.25. Then we got three. The three was 3.5, and then it was like, oh, we got a hard drive, 10 megabytes. Woohoo! Yeah. Now most files are that. It's a totally I like the other day I was in Best Buy and I had a hard drive go out, and the guys and there was like, well, we have to replace it. I go, well, what's it going to cost? Well, the same 2 terabytes, $130. I almost started laughing. I'm like, that's so cheap compared to you have no idea how. I know people come in here and complain about things, but that is just so cheap.
Yeah.
2 terabytes for $134. Give me a break. And you installed it for nothing because I have that service.
Yeah, but it's the constant change that goes on, and people are living through I went through the dawn of the internet. I went through the different phases of digital marketing, the .com collapse in the 1990s. I've been through all of that. Now we're in the middle of the AI revolution, where everybody is like, this is going to change everything. Well, no, it's not. It's a new set of tools that need to be learned and adapted to, but the fundamental principles haven't changed, and they aren't likely to change, because at the end of the day, it's still about people. And people operate against a very simple plan.
And I think because that's when, because I was during the whole time too, and things came out and they're like, oh, the internet's going to change everything. Well, to a certain point, but then they were like, when the certain things came out, we're never going to need paper anymore. We're never going to print anything. You're never going to copy. It's like, okay, we burnt more paper than we ever did once that happened.
Yeah, digital advertising is going to destroy TV ads.
Nope. It's just different how they're just streaming it now.
Yeah.
Not everybody can understand what you and I have been through, because people don't understand. But I mean, I remember in the 90s in the Navy going, okay, one day we'll have TV on a computer, and that, we'll figure out a way to get it down. It was the stuff wasn't there at that time. And then all of a sudden now video of this, and now what we're doing here. And I love YouTube TV. It's the best. I got rid of all my cable, and I have high speed fiber in my house. 1 gigabyte by 1 gigabyte can get up to 5 gigs by 5 gigs. But you don't have enough need for that yet.
Yeah, no, we cut the cord years ago, and it's still learn and adapt and adjust.
I mean, because Comcast, they're not hearing. I mean, if you do this, what we're doing right now, the upload speed is what's the most important thing, and they
Absolutely.
think the download is because that's how people game. But
That's right.
but video is all upload, and they max out at 40 on a good day for upload on cable, and most of the time at 26. You know how bad and grainy that is. That's how I found that out. Because I couldn't get stuff done at my office because we were doing a lot of YouTube stuff and everything, and it's like I go be doing video, and all of a sudden it drops, and my guy's uploading stuff, and everybody else, and I'm like, okay, there's a problem. Finally, they got fiber to the building, and then I got fiber to my house and built my studio out in my house so that I didn't have to deal with the issue with the office.
Right.
What we're getting at is just things are different these days, and this is what we're talking about, and what you need to. Things will always change. You just have to keep doing the right things all the time.
Right.
I remember going to a lot of conferences, and they're like, the old way is the new way. No, the old way is always the way it is. Like Zig Ziglar sales, all those things, relationships, all that, check up from the neck up, all that stuff they talk about. Cause I'm a huge sales guy. That's what my background is. And I'm like, that's how it's supposed to be, the relationships. And when you talked about people are people, well, the more AI and the more you can be scammed by it, the more they're going to want to see you in person.
Mm-hmm.
Or on video to a point where we know that you're a human.
Right. It's also, if you weren't very good at what you were doing before, AI is not going to fix that. It's just going to be able to, you're going to be able to produce crap content more rapidly and more efficiently, but it's still going to be crap content.
Well, AI will help you create better content than crap content if you ask it right.
If you ask it right, but that gets back to, if you didn't know what you were doing before, you're not going to know how to ask it right. So
you can just ask it to tell you how to ask it right.
To some degree, yes.
Dude, I've been dealing with it since, AI has been around since the 50s, but really forward facing, customer touching it. And then when it came out in November of 22, I was a first adopter of it, and I did so much within the first 30 days that when I tell people what I do now, they can't believe what I can do with it. And I barely use it compared to what somebody who really writes the language and knew everything knows how to deal with it. But I do enough to make my life so much easier, and I don't need all the additional people I used to have to do things. And the fact that you can have virtual assistants do so many other things for you, that is even greater. I don't know if you know, I have a pod, which is so many hours a month, and whatever I need done, I just tell them, they go get their VA. One of the people in the company that they have or connected to will find a VA to do that for me, whatever it is. Because I don't do the same thing over and over again. If I was doing the same thing over and over again, I could just get one virtual assistant to handle that. But I need somebody who knows how to do high level, somebody who knows how to do WordPress, somebody who knows how to do this, because I got stuff all over the place.
Sure. Yeah.
And speaking of, since I got into that, your new bit, so you were able to, you said off air, I think we talked about, when you were working at a company, you were able to purchase one of the vendors. Is that,
yes, that's how I got started as an entrepreneur and small business owner.
So before you did it, were you worried about being an entrepreneur? Because
not really
corporations for so long?
No. I felt that there was a good market for what we were trying to do. And I had been in the business a long time. I had a lot of contacts, and much to my wife's amazement, people like me. So, and that's worked out just fine. We're not going to, world domination is not in the cards, but it's been a good business, and we've created a lot of value for clients. We've had clients stick with us for 8, 9, 10 years. And, if you keep clients for that long, you're doing something right.
Right. Because you keep building. Now, what is the business that you're in now?
Well, the core business is websites. When I left the corporate world, the vendor that I bought was a digital marketing studio, and they produced stuff. And I refocused it into websites, because when I looked at websites, most of them are terrible. And they're terrible for a common reason, and that's an absence of strategy. And my background is marketing strategy. And so I'm applying that knowledge and experience to this, vital asset that a business owns. We work with large corporations, usually as a subcontractor to a design agency, and then we take over the hosting and maintenance of the site. And then 6 years ago, we created Innately, which is a product more for high 6-figure, low 7-figure budgets, businesses that are moving out of the scrappy marketing phase and trying to get more serious and more professional about it, and are ready to upscale and have a professional team take over the management of their website. And then last year, we started doing more digital marketing services. That's been received very well and has grown very rapidly. And we're continuing to do that because the clients kept coming to us and said, look, we can't find anybody to help us with this that thinks the way you think. And we've seen the impact you've had on the website. We want you to have that impact on the other things that we're doing. So,
And for people listening, digital marketing encompasses all of what? No,
email marketing, social media, paid ads, any vehicle that on the digital side of things that you're using to attract and develop, prospects and customers.
no, I just want to be clear so people knew what we were talking about. Yeah. It's funny because I do another podcast called Helping the Brave, and the lady dropped an acronym, and before I could say anything, she totally explained it all. I'm like, thank you so much for that. Not everybody who listens knows all the acronyms and knows everything, What have you? So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what have you seen in the last? Because you've had this coming 15 years?
Yeah, thereabouts.
What is the biggest change you've seen in the last 15 years?
Lots of tactical things have come and gone, but the fundamentals haven't changed. I mean, people often ask me, how do you translate your experience with big brands and big budgets into this new environment? And the answer is both simple and hard. When you understand the principles behind things, the translation becomes a lot easier because the principles apply regardless of the size of your business.
And what are those principles?
Well, there's a few key ones. One of the key ones is an old direct marketing axiom called get the right message to the right person at the right time. It's a pretty simple statement and pretty easy to understand, but so many people aren't doing it.
So how do you do that? How do you get the right message to the right person at the right time? Because when you said direct mail, so in the 90s, I was huge in San Diego. That was what I did. I was still in the mortgage industry, but we used direct mail like nobody's business.
Sure.
And it was the best medium to get the right calls, the right people on the phone if you did it right.
If you did it right. That's
and
right.
most people didn't do it right. They just wanted the phone calls. I didn't want the phone calls. I wanted the qualified. I wanted the Glenn Ross leads. Okay.
Right. Well, and that's a great question. And back when I was managing big budgets and brands, we had the resources to pay for, the researchers to do focus groups, and we would develop avatars or sometimes they're called personas of our best customers. And then we'd also use similar techniques to map the buyer's journey to understand what happens at each stage of the marketing funnel. Another principle that people have to recognize is the best marketing in the world is not going to change a customer's need state. If they don't need what you want, what you're selling, if they don't need what you're selling, they're not going to see your marketing. Doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. They're just not going to see it. So that understanding that evolution of need state from unaware to aware to consideration to prospecting to making the buying decision, understanding the different questions that are asked at each of those phases, understanding the obstacles that need to be overcome. That's the kind of insight, when it's combined with the customer avatar, that lets you create messaging and marketing that breaks through the noise. And it breaks through the noise because it's relevant to the audience you're trying to attract. And therefore, people see it and they engage with it, and that you begin the process. I have an example of this to sort of highlight. It's a bit controversial. I'm telling people to stop saying call to action. And of course, which makes people go, wait, what? What did that crazy person just say? Because they've been told they need a call to action from day one. And I'm like, look, when you think about it, a call to action is what I call inside out marketing. It's the marketer shouting at customers and telling them what to do. People don't want to be shouted at. They don't want to be told what to do. What I tell people to think about is stop calling it a call to action and start calling it a people like you pathway, where you're creating a pathway for a specific subsegment of your audience and inviting them to follow that pathway. Now, functionally, it's exactly the same thing.
Right.
But the mindset shift is really important, because the call to action, as I said, is a marketer shouting at people and telling them what to do. A pathway is a marketer attracting the right people and inviting them in to learn more.
It's kind of like when you are, God, I lost, sorry, phone. I was turning off my phone. I was not supposed to be vibrating and it's vibrating. When you're looking at things and you're telling people, God, just go, it'll come to me in a second. I'm old. It's one of those things that just lost that train of thought. And I'll think about it in 2 seconds from now. But it was basically the same thing. What you call, when you're doing things a certain way, it's we think a certain way, and that's not how it's supposed to be. It's now I remember when people would say, in sales, I want to do so many transactions, and then they say, well, no, I want to help so many families.
Right.
Right. It's how it's the verbiage and how you sell it across makes the difference.
It makes a big difference. And it's an example of when you understand who you're talking to, you have the avatar of your ideal customer. You know what they're like demographically, you know what they're like as people, you know what the pain is that they're struggling with, and you know what the transformation is that they're looking for. When you've got that picture clearly in front of you, and you also understand if they're at the top of the funnel or the mid funnel, don't immediately start banging them with a sales message. They're not ready for it. They're not going to pay any attention to it. But if you give them the information that they're looking for at that stage in their journey, suddenly your marketing becomes part of their journey. And you're supporting them, and you're building trust with them, and you're building relationship with them, and you're drawing them. The goal here is you want the purchase to stop being a sale. You want the purchase to start being the next logical step in their journey. And when that happens, you'll have a customer for life.
So are you saying that above the fold stuff is not important either?
Oh, it's absolutely important.
I mean, like what we call the call to action on there, or it should be not a call to action, but more find out more, or, what are you talking about?
Well, the first thing you want to do above the fold is you want to engage people. I'll often ask people, what is the primary objective of this website? And they'll hem and haw and give me a list of things, and we'll talk about what primary really means. There can only be one. And then they'll usually land on conversion. Now, conversion is absolutely important, but it's not the primary objective of most websites. It's not the primary objective of most landing pages. The primary objective is confirmation. You want to confirm in the mind of the person who's visiting the page that you understand their problem, that you get them, that you're there for them, and then you want to give them a viable solution for that problem. Then you want to give them some reasons that they should believe you. And as you build that relationship and trust, they will get to the conversion. But if you lead with the conversion, if you lead with a big old call to action that says buy now above the, right there, smack in their face when they're not ready for it, it's just not going to work. Not going to work as efficiently as what I'm describing. When I was managing the digital budget for Toyota, the media people were all like analyzing and optimizing and getting up 1% and 2% improvements, and we're really excited about that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was awesome. Like, good for them. But I asked the question, has anybody looked at the landing pages? And they weren't paying any attention to the landing pages because that's not how they were being measured. So we went and looked at the landing pages. They were awful. So we put together a team that concentrate on the landing pages and optimize those landing pages to be more supportive of the journey that was being stimulated by the advertising. We were able to improve conversion off of those landing pages in the neighborhood of 60%.
Wow. That's
so
a huge difference.
if you get what you're doing and understand where your customer is coming from, and you craft your marketing to support that, you're going to have a much better success than just shouting at people.
Question for you. The word avatar, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've only been hearing that a lot more in the last few years. Prior to that was knowing your perfect client. Is that just something that has
it's a new name for the same thing? Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I hear it all the time now. It's like, okay, are you trying to be, but I mean, I'm just so used, because clients don't know who their client is. They don't know who the perfect client is. They think it's everybody, and you can't. It's not a shotgun approach. You have to know who that person is.
If you try to talk to everybody, you'll end up talking to nobody.
Right. You got to talk to the right people so that they come to you and you repel the other people. And I try to explain them. You still can help other people that come to you, but you need to know they're not hearing you if you're not talking to them directly.
Yeah, we both have phone problems today.
Sorry. It's just I have it too close. Normally I put it over on my other table over there so I don't see it. But we're getting ready for our Operation Firewalk in 30 days. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's like I was on it before I got on here.
Yeah, well, it's the avatar is an important piece of this. The understanding who your best customer is another important piece. Another common mistake that gets made is they treat everybody equally. And the reality is, for most businesses, 80% of their revenue is coming from 20% of their customers.
Right.
And though that 20% they're not the same as the average person. They're probably heavy category users. They're probably very well informed. They're very knowledgeable. You need to talk to them differently than you would talk to the average person. So who you build the avatar of is really, really important. If you just build a random avatar of random customers, then you're back into the trying to market to everyone department. And this doesn't work.
No, because they're not going to hear you. It's like I tell people, when you're looking for a certain car and you want a white car and this one, you see them everywhere. Mm-hmm. But it's because you're open to that suggestion, because we've been bombarded so much by marketing that we tune out a lot of stuff. But you got to be there when you start tuning into it. You want to have your message there, and you
want to be able to talk to them in a way that they can relate to. And you can't do that if you don't know what they're like. Right. So that's what the avatar does, is gives you that picture of your ideal customer in terms of those 4 quadrants. And then that has to be married with the journey map, because that avatar has different questions at different points in their relationship. I mean, think about it. Even if you're in the grocery store and you're walking down the end aisle and you happen to see out of the corner of your eye the cereal aisle, and you go, oh, right, I think we're out of cereal. It's not on the list, but I should pop down there and see what they've got. And then you walk down and you see this wall of cereal choices. Then well, I've normally buy this and this, so that you're going into the consideration phase. Let's see what they've got today. then you get down, well, there's this brand that's on sale, and then there's this other brand that I buy more often. You're down into the prospecting phase, and then you make a purchase decision. People go through this process. It can happen in 30 seconds or it can happen in 30 days, but they go through this process. So as a marketer, recognize it, understand it, map it, know what it is.
You said 4 quadrants as you were talking. What do you mean by the 4?
In the avatar, yes.
Yeah.
Demographics, characteristics, what's their pain, and what's their gain.
See, people think they just write an ad and you can get them to come in. Well, you can't. I mean, the wrong message to the wrong person works occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what they're used to. But that's, because you're right about websites. So many websites are so bad. And they're talking to everybody. They're not talking to the perfect client. And I tell people, you know what, if you do multiple businesses, separate out into multiple websites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It particularly if those multiple businesses are talking to different target audiences. That's the key thing. If you're doing multiple businesses, but they're all talking to the same target audience, you can probably do that with pathways on a single website.
Right.
So again, it's about understanding the business, understanding the customers, and then executing based on that versus my nephew told me I should be on TikTok.
And it's fine. Again, the thing about social media is you find something and just go all in on it. If you're going to use social media, you don't have to be on every single one of them. And that's what people don't understand. If you're a business, why are you on all of them? Why aren't you on LinkedIn? Mm-hmm. And why don't you take care of LinkedIn first and then maybe start going the rest of it? Because there's so much business done on LinkedIn. It's people just don't understand that.
Right.
And you need to focus on that more than anything.
Well, at the beginning, you asked about principles. Another principle is fish where the fish are. It's if that's where your people are, then absolutely be there. Right. But one of the third leg in the marketing 3-legged stool, if your audience is the first leg and then your marketing is the second leg, the third leg is measurement. Are you actually measuring what you're doing, and so that you're letting data drive the decision-making process versus opinion?
See, you're just getting too complicated. You expect everybody to do all these extra stuff.
Sorry.
No, but there's so much involved. And when you're a small business owner, you don't always able to do all this. So you need to hire somebody to handle this for you.
Right.
You don't try to do it yourself. And the problem has been, and this is ever since High Level came out, Go High Level, everybody thinks they're an agency.
Right.
And the problem is most of the agencies were going through a level 9 or some of these other places to do the work for them, and then upcharging, and then it's just they don't know what they're doing.
Right. And it's the same thing we were talking about earlier about AI. If you don't know what you're doing, AI will just let you do that faster, and that's not it's not helpful. And the other thing, though, just to do a counterpoint to that, I'm a firm believer that nobody comes to work with the intention of doing a bad job. And you can go out and hire a little boutique digital marketing agency to help you do some of this stuff, and they'll strive to do the best job they can. But the thing is, most business owners are not strategic. They don't understand marketing strategy. And most of these small digital agencies, they're trying to do a good job, but they're not strategic either. They're real good at making the noise pretty, but it's still pretty noise.
So you're saying they're more reactive?
Yeah, they'll do what they're told. The client says, "Well, I need to be here and here and here and here," and they'll nod their head and make that activity look really good. I give them the benefit of the doubt. But the thing is, what's the missing link is strategy. The piece that's missing in most websites and most digital marketing campaigns that I audit, it's an absence of strategy.
So they don't have a strategy, or they don't know why the purpose of the website or the purpose of what they're doing.
They don't know who they're talking to. They don't know what the person they're talking to is looking for. They don't know, how to support that journey that their prospect is on. They're just making the noise pretty.
Well, so that's the perfect place to leave it right there, because that's the most important thing. That you said a lot of good things today, but I'm just saying that that's the most important thing right there, is because people don't do those things like you just talked about. They just hire people, get it taken care, get my website done. I got to work with clients.
Right.
Well, you're eventually going to run out of clients if you don't have a good working way for people to find you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's particularly, my audience is the sort of high 6-figure, low 7-figure business who's ready to move out of the scrappy marketing world and do things, because you get up to that level, getting growth, there's plateaus, right? You can get up into the high 6-figure, low 7 figures, and it's real hard to grow at that point unless you make some fundamental adjustments in how you do things, because what got you there is not going to get you to the next place. And getting your head wrapped around that it's a challenge for many business owners.
And once you get there, though, it's like they say, their first million's your hardest million.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's easier. Basically, you just have to I don't want to say keep reinventing yourself, but it seems like lately, if you go back to the 50s, it was no big deal. You could do whatever and you would still do business. And then 60s happened, 70s happened, 80s happened. And then we got in the 90s, 2000s. And then now where we are, things change so much. You have to stay on top of it. And there's just so much change that if you don't like it today, don't worry, tomorrow will be worse. James, thanks so much for being on the show today. How do people find you or to get help? Or I'm sorry, I should ask, do you even want these people to call you and get help?
Oh yeah, I love talking to people. That's one of the reasons why I like going on podcasts. I've been doing this a long time and I've got a lot of knowledge, and I'm happy to listen to business owners and hear what they're saying. It's very valuable to me, and I hopefully can bring some value to them. The best way to get on my calendar is to book a virtual coffee by going to vipchatwithjames.com. That's vipchatwithjames.com. And you can grab 30 minutes on my calendar, and I'd be happy to talk to you about your business and your marketing and how I can help. It's really very worthwhile process for me.
James, have you written a book yet about this stuff?
I do. I have. It is called,
because I didn't see it anywhere. That's why I'm asking you.
Searching for it. Journey to Success. I wrote it as a parable because business books are boring. And it's about John and his family. They own a custom bike shop and they were getting destroyed by the internet. And it's their journey into digital marketing and all of the mistakes they've made and the challenges that they overcame. And they found this guy named Kyle, who's my alter ego, who they hired as a consultant to help them work through a bunch of these problems. And it was a lot of fun to write. I wrote it during the pandemic when I had some time, and I'm real proud of it. It really, I think people who've read it have told me it was very helpful. It opened their minds to a lot of things.
Have you read in there? Does it explain finding your the avatar, the whole process?
The avatar and the journey map, all that stuff is in there. Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure people knew that was in there. That way they can go get it. Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yes.
Okay. And one more time, the name of the book?
Journey to Success, Digital Marketing for Small Business Owners. There
you go. Go out and get his book. James, thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
All right.